It is time for Boxing Scene's top stories only on ProBox TV, your boxing channel. I am George D. Metellus. And for all you fight fans out there, ProBox TV will still have the long-form content, those shows that are just over 24 minutes. And if you're a fan of top stories, you can check out the playlist of top stories on our YouTube channel. You get them back-to-back, boom, 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 here on YouTube and on ProBox TV. All right, time to introduce the champions as we get ready for top stories. We got Chris Algieri and Paulie Malignaggi joining us here on Top Stories. All right, Brian Norman has been elevated to full welterweight champion for the WBO. An interesting move there by the WBO, especially since Terence Crawford has moved up to 154. So what does this do for Crawford Ennis, and what does this do for the welterweight division, Chris?
Well, I mean, you're opening up all those titles now. First, let me just talk about this interim elevation via email to champion situation. I can't stand this. I think it's a really bad look for the sport. It hurts the credibility of what being a world champion is. Belts are won in the ring, and yeah, an interim championship is not a world championship. Yes, he had a big win against Santillan. Great fight. That's more like a title eliminator type fight than an actual world title matchup. Wins the interim title, waiting for Crawford to eventually vacate, which we knew he was going to when he moved up in weight, and he was going to campaign at 154. So now he gets elevated, quote unquote, via email to full champion. I can't stand this. You got to fight. If you have an interim title, you still should have to fight the next guy in line in order to win that title in the ring. But in terms of the welterweight division, you know, there's a huge vacuum. You've got Terence Crawford, the unified champion, moving out of the weight class. It's going to release all those belts, and we're going to have a lot of top contenders fighting, or we should, instead of all these elevations. But now welterweight is completely wide open. You know, there's that huge power vacuum at the top, and you're going to have a lot of matchups that are going to be able to be made now. So that's a positive for the weight class, because it's going to get moving, and we're going to get some other fighters, other contenders that are going to get some experience and exposure.
Yeah, I gotta say, I'm kind of on the same page with you, champ. You know, the email thing is sort of a played out thing, but it's also, I think, going to start to become more and more of a thing nonetheless, even if it feels like it's played. And here's the reason why. Sanctioning bodies do not enforce their mandatories. Sanctioning bodies never enforce the fights they're supposed to make. It used to be back in the day, and I can remember, I'm old enough to remember this, where you had an interim champion who the mandatory would become an interim champion. He would fight for the interim title. And that rule was, if the interim champion did not get the title shot within 6 months, he would then become the full champion. It was on the champion to have to fight him. And if the champion avoided him, then this way you could continue to make things continue to go. And it gave the champion an extra 6 months to not have to defend against the #1 contender. Maybe he would make a unification, or maybe he would make a bigger fight, whatever. It was in special cases. Now they don't enforce anything. So eventually, you know, you've had Crawford, who beat Spence, has basically no intention of coming back to the welterweight division, and only now does he get stripped of the WBO title. Well, the welterweight division has been consistently moving since. So, you know, the email title ends up coming into play, because you could say, okay, Norman should have to fight for it, but Norman should have already fought Crawford for it, right? I mean, isn't that the case? Is that the whole reason he fought what was his name, the guy he just beat, Santillan? You know?
Yeah.
So you know, I don't like it either, but the only way you get rid of it is if you enforce fights, and we know that's not going to happen. That's for sure.
It is unfortunate, because Brian Norman was very impressive in that victory over Giovanni Santillan in 147, opening up, and an interesting weight class as well. All right, Paulie and Chris, thanks for your time here on Top Stories. And don't forget, Wednesday night fights here on ProBox TV, your boxing channel, is going to be a good one at middleweight in the main event between Jarrett Hurd and Jason Rosario. That's Wednesday, August 21st here on ProBox TV, your boxing channel. That does it for Boxing Scene's Top Stories. I'm George D. Metellus. Take care, everyone.
Wednesday Night Fights.
Dynamite action on Wednesday Night Fights every other Wednesday on your boxing channel.
Coming up on your next Wednesday Night Fights, August 21st. Former Unified World Champion Swift Jarrett Hurd takes on former Unified World Champion Jason Banana Rosario. Live from the ProBox Event Center in Plant City. Get your tickets at proboxtv.com or take your chances at the door. Wednesday Night Fights.
For more ProBox TV, scan the QR code on the screen or go to the App Store and Google Play. ProBox TV, your boxing channel.